On this episode of the What to Watch Guys, we'll tell you about a stand-up comedy special, a documentary featuring a famous songwriter, and a comedy drama for foodies. All that, plus our YouTube picks of the week, and much more. So guys, let's talk about comedy for a second. What it is, what it means, what it consists of, what the hell is going on with comedy today. I was watching this, and I'll let you guys weigh in on this. I was watching Ricky Gervais. He did a really funny routine all about telling jokes. And he said, jokes is when I say something I don't really mean for comic effect, and you, as an audience, laugh at the wrong thing because you know what the right thing is.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
Right? He says, you can't say something isn't funny. You can only say you don't find it funny. You know, he says, I hate when people say that joke was offensive. No, you got to say, I found the joke offensive.
Yeah.
Because humor is all about feelings, and feelings are personal. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
I saw an interview with Ricky Gervais, and he was saying when it comes to comedy, no subject is really out of bounds. And he also said the purpose of comedy is not only to make people laugh, but it's to make them think.
Yeah.
Which I think nowadays more people need to do. I think we need some more thinking around here.
Well, but this whole cancel culture thing has changed comedy so drastically. You're seeing all these comedians come forward to talk about it. Like you were saying earlier, Andrew, like Seinfeld and those guys 10, 15 years ago were saying, I'm not doing colleges anymore. These people are nuts.
Well, Bill Maher and Jerry Seinfeld about, I'd say 5, 6 years ago, came out. Jerry and Bill Maher, since he has a platform, has been talking about this consistently.
Yeah.
How this whole cancel culture and this whole has made playing, especially colleges, that they just don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because they get now there's actually have been colleges that have canceled. They booked comedians, and then when they found out more about them, they canceled them. Canceled the act because I saw in one.
That's ridiculous.
They said that their opinions don't match with ours as far as like the comedy club owners. It's like if you own a comedy club and you start censoring your acts, man, you're going out of business quick.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you deserve to go out of business.
And this is what Gervais talked about. He said, if you're someone who revels in the idea of someone being canceled for something that they said 10 years ago, you know, you're just ensuring that one day you'll be canceled for something you said today. You know? So, you know, be careful what you wish for.
Well, I think this woke culture has, when it comes to comedy, it's really attacked the stand-up comedian.
Big time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, you're seeing all these stand-ups, I mean, these stand-up comedians coming out and saying, really, they're the ones most affected by the cancel culture. Across the board, comedians, period, are just like, we can't work anymore. What are we supposed to do?
And if you think about the stuff that we were laughing at back in the 70s.
Oh, man.
Richard Pryor, George Carlin, you know, George Wallace. Some of these guys who were so funny.
Oh, well, think about this, guys. Television shows that we watched, 70s, 80s, 90s, into the 2000s, really.
Never get on TV
50% of those shows would not even be allowed on the networks today. You know, I was reading an article about that the other day. You know, Seinfeld, Married with Children.
Friends.
Oh, God.
What about 2.5 Men? Remember that show? Oh, my God.
2.5 Men. Hilarious.
There's no way that would be on. And if you go back further to stuff like Benny Hill and Monty Python and stuff, it's just crazy. The Office. I love The Office, but, man, some of the stuff, I still every once in a while catch a replay of that. And I'm like, ooh, that would not fly today. And that was only like 10 years ago.
And then you got to ask the question, you can't say that today. Says who?
Ooh, yeah. Well, says the networks.
The hell says that you can't do it.
Right.
Here's the big problem is because comics are aware of that. The big problem is when they start self-censoring. When they write a joke, I can't tell that joke. I might offend someone. Man.
Yeah, then they're not funny anymore.
They're done.
Right?
They're not funny.
I mean, it's just even Seinfeld. You look at Seinfeld's show, I watch that all the time. And
Seinfeld always made a point of not going blue, as they say in comedy.
Right.
He did not use foul language. He did not drop F-bombs. He wanted it to be funny on its own merits. And he can't even compete.
He said a long time ago, I'm not doing stand-up anymore. And I've seen him talk about it on his show. What is it, Driving in Cars with Comedians or whatever that show? I love
Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Yeah. That's a great show. And
good show.
It comes up periodically in conversation with all these comedians, and they all talk about it.
Yeah.
I read this online yesterday. Disney. We talked about Disney and how woke Disney is. They have gone back on so many of their older cartoons and movies and either just got rid of them or now even the Muppet Show, which I've never seen because I'm too old, but the executives were going to get rid of the Muppet Show. And I thought, what? What they ended up determining is they have like 20 episodes or 17 episodes, I think it was, that have a warning, like in the beginning of the show,
a trigger warning,
like a disclaimer saying that, if you watch this show, it's potentially offensive content. What in the world are the Muppets would be?
The Muppets.
Well, wait. They weren't very inclusive with Oscar.
Yeah.
So that was really belittling everyone that lives in trash cans. Now, one thing about these stand-up comedians, there's a lot of them that they're fighting back.
That's the point.
This wokeness could kill stand-up, and we need to support these comics that are not surrendering to the woke agenda,
that are fearless.
Right.
Which are most.
We got to get a little more fearlessness in our comedy. I like it.
My pick for this week is a Hulu show called McCartney 321.
No.
Okay, as if we haven't had enough documentaries on the Beatles.
Yeah, we could use a few more.
Right.
Jay, how many days was it out before you saw it? 1 or 2 days?
It was hours. Okay, but that's beside the point. Beside the point.
Jay is our resident Beatles freak and expert when it comes to the Beatles.
Well, listen,
quite the
this
expert.
is different in one way. It's different in that I really think it allows you to see a side of Sir Paul McCartney that we probably haven't seen before in other stuff. And the way it's set up is it's just Rick Rubin, who is the host, I guess you could say. It's just he and Paul, and they're in a studio. The lighting is interesting. It's very dark. It's black and white. And I think that the purpose of that by the director may have been to draw you away from the visuals and just feature the music. But what he does, Rick Rubin, is he has a mixer, and he's got all the original tapes and the breakout tapes for all the Beatles and Wings and all that stuff. And
he's a producer.
He's a very famous producer, Rick Rubin. And so he pulls up a song and he starts playing it. And then McCartney will lean in and pull down everything but the guitar. And he talks about the recording process, which for anybody that's a musician or engineer or producer is very interesting. But what it does is you can tell McCartney hasn't listened to a lot of this stuff in many, many years. And so what it does is it triggers these memories. And you could see it in Paul's face. You know, he's like, oh my God, I remember, we were trying to find we needed a part for the middle eight and we did this. So anyway, from that perspective, it's really interesting. And, if you look at the Beatles, I'm a big, huge Beatles fan. But put this in perspective. This band.
Oh, you're the one.
This band was only together releasing records in the U.S. for 6, maybe 7 years. They broke up over 50 years ago. They have sold more records than anyone in history, and they're still on the Billboard every year. How does that happen? And there's a reason that happens. The music is timeless. The songwriting was timeless. So this is a really fun documentary. It's 6 parts. They're a half hour each. It's easy to watch in a few nights. And if you're a musician, if you're a Beatles fan, even if you're not, but you're an audiophile, because let's face it, the Beatles changed everything about how records are made. So if you're coming from it from that angle, whether you like McCartney or not, it gives you an opportunity to hear how some of this stuff was done. Some of these inventive sounds were made in the production. So definitely check it out. It's on Hulu. It's called McCartney 321.
I got a question for you, Jay.
All right.
Now, at one point, the Beatles stopped touring, stopped doing live performances.
Yeah.
And that was 66. Now, after that, they just spent all their time in the studio. And they
Everything
really
changed.
revolutionized studio recording.
Well,
and what effect do you think that had on the Beatles? The fact that they just doubled down on the studio.
Well, no one had ever done that before. I mean, in those days, you made singles and you went on tour to sell them. And the Beatles got so popular so quickly within the first year or two of their of coming to the United States that it allowed them this power. So they decided, we're done touring. We can't hear ourselves anyway. Everybody's screaming. And they did something no band had ever done before. They went in the studio and spent months making a record.
They did a lot of things that no band had ever done before.
Pretty much invented.
I mean, the list of things that they've done that no band had ever done before
in the studio
could fill up pages. Yeah.
And, Rick Rubin is a guy who produces a lot of heavy metal and rap and that. He's but he's very famous. He's done huge bands. And to hear his comments and his perspective as a producer really adds a lot to the show too, I thought. So anyway, check it out. It's on Hulu. It's been out a couple of years, but if you haven't seen it and you're a musician or a producer or you like music or you love the Beatles, check it out. McCartney 321.
Okay, I got a quick one here. Tom Segura, who's one of my favorite comedians. He does, I probably mentioned this before, he does a podcast with Bert Kreischer called Two Bears, One Cave, which is hilarious if you ever listen to podcasts. These guys are just, they're best friends, and the chemistry between us is pretty good. And he also does a podcast with his wife called Your Mom's House. But anyway, his new comedy special is called Sledgehammer. It premiered the 4th of July. And, man, he's just getting better and better. I think he's like, he was always funny, but he's just, he's like entering his prime. So you got to check out Tom Segura on Netflix. His comedy special is called Sledgehammer.
So what kind of stuff does he cover?
Well, he talks about, he has 2 boys, I think 3 and 5. So they obviously come up a lot. And it's just his observational humor.
Yeah, that's what it is, observational.
I don't want to start doing his bits, so.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm just...
Check it out. I mean, he's a great stand-up comedian. And a lot of people have heard of him, but I don't think there's some people out there that are not familiar with him. And you really should check him out. And he is definitely not woke.
Okay, good to know. So if you're a foodie, and we know someone who is, Andrew having been a chef in Manhattan for a number of years, or even if you're not, this show that I'm doing is a great watch. It's really cool. It's called The Bear, and it's available on Hulu. It premiered last summer, and it stars Jeremy Allen White. You may remember him as Flip from Shameless, the series. And he plays Carmi Brazzado, and also stars Ayo Edebiri as his partner, Sydney. And so basically, Carmi is an award-winning chef. Traveled the world. He returns to his hometown of Chicago to take over a failing sandwich shop called The Beef, which was owned by his now deceased brother, Mike. Sydney is his business partner, or one of them. She is a talented but still rather inexperienced chef who becomes Carmi's sous chef. And together, they want to turn this sandwich shop into a fine dining restaurant. And Carmi's got the props to do that. They get some really serious backing from Carmi's uncle, Jimmy, with the proviso that they need to show a profit,
ASAP.
like pronto. Right. And he stands to lose a very sizable investment. So the clock is ticking on their being able to just open the damn restaurant. And, I'm sure, I don't know, but anyone who has opened or owned a restaurant knows how incredibly complicated that can be. And the show, while it moves fairly quickly, it still manages to take the time to develop each one of these characters so that by the end of the season, you really understand how important each aspect of this whole endeavor is to each one of them. It's funny. It's kind of tense at times. It's very quirky. Jamie Lee Curtis makes a cameo appearance as Cammie's mom, who's nuts. And there's a bunch of others. All in all, I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the second season to begin. I think it's about to ready to launch. It's called The Bear on Hulu.
That's funny. I saw that. I thought it was The Bears, and it was about Chicago football.
Yeah.
The Bears. No, it's about Chicago, but not football.
Cool.
So now we come to the part of our show, and Jay's going to kick this off, where we tell you all about the great stuff you can find on YouTube. Jay?
I got a show or a page or a channel, I guess you'd call it, called Antenna Man. I know that sounds weird. And it's a nerdy channel, but the reason
girlfriend called me that.
The reason I'm doing it is because so many people now are doing what we're doing here, streaming and cutting the cord, right? Getting rid of their cable, getting rid of their satellite. And this guy specializes in that. So if that's something you've been considering, which I have done, I no longer have cable or satellite. I have YouTube TV and I have streaming services, and more people are doing that, obviously, for cost saving reasons and others. So he does he has a bunch of stuff on his channel about how to do that, how to get antennas set up that work to get you the local channels, in high def and that kind of thing. It sounds boring, but it's actually, I've learned a lot watching his videos. He's got lots of videos up there. He has 266,000 subscribers. So, it's pretty decent. 34 million views. So a lot of people who are considering this move, getting rid of your cable, getting rid of your satellite, go to this guy and check him out. It's called Antenna Man right here on YouTube.
Nice.
Great. Okay, I'm doing a podcast, The Candace Owens Show. Now, Candace Owens is a conservative podcaster who I have to say is an extraordinarily impressive human being. She is sharp. I mean, razor sharp. I saw her with an interview, Phil recommended it, where she did an interview with Russell Brand, who is so fast and so sharp. Quick. And she kept up with him and slapped him around a little bit. It was great. So she's on a network called The Daily Wire or PragerU. And she also does, she has a couple specials. She did a special called Shot in the Dark, which she discussed vaccines. Now she's a mother, and she did a deep dive into each vaccine and each ingredient. And she found out some of these vaccines, they were saying, well, we give this to your child. Well, it could have eye problems if one of the parents has gonorrhea. She's like, oh, neither of the parents have gonorrhea. We can pass on that vaccine. And then she also does one. Yeah. She has another one called Taboo with Candace Owens, where she talks to some musicians and even a former porn star. And they sort of do a deep dive into the industry. She talks a lot about the music industry and some of the hurdles and some of the things that some of these musicians went through, during their career. And now, last week I covered the Making a Murderer, which was a documentary on Netflix. Now, she is coming out with a documentary, it's not out yet, called Convicting a Murderer. And it's a follow-up on that documentary. And she apparently came up with a bunch of stuff that wasn't on the YouTube special.
On the same case?
It's the same case.
Oh.
Now, one of the things I like about her, she was a liberal. She grew up, drinking the Kool-Aid, and but then she does a very great. Yeah, she had an epiphany, and she does a good video describing her journey. And she's not a Republican; she's an independent like me. But I really like this, and I can relate to this. She considers herself a liberal conservative, and when I heard her say that, it hit the nail right on the head.
I get that totally.
I discovered Candace Owens' videos on YouTube back in 2016. She had a series called Red Pill Black.
Yeah.
Where and she describes that epiphany, and pretty amazing stuff. And I recognized at the time, boy, this woman is sharp.
Yeah. Definitely check out Candace Owens, and her podcast you can see it on YouTube, or you can go to the Daily Wire and check it out. That's Candace Owens.
I've been watching this page that I just kind of stumbled onto because some of these video titles were pretty intriguing. And again, it's one of the geek pages. It's called Veritasium, an element of truth. First of all, he's got like 2 billion views.
Wow.
Somewhere upwards of 13.8 million subscribers. So he's got some he's got some audience. He's got some really intriguing videos about all kinds of ideas. He talks about, one video is all about math's fundamental flaw. Things that are true that can't possibly be proven. He also gets into a lot of misconceptions and misunderstood concepts like entropy, which, science geeks understand a lot better than I do. There's one section on quantum computers and the idea that, in the next decade, quantum computers could be used to crack the encryption that our society relies on for its privacy and security, just because they're going to be so much faster and better. So there's a whole lot of stuff that you can learn from this. It's called Veritasium, and it's on YouTube. Well, folks, we've come to the end of another show. We're glad that you stuck around to the end. We want to hear what you think about it. We're giving you a lot of ideas and views and opinions. We want to hear yours. So go down to the comment section below. Say what you think. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Make sure you like and subscribe. And we will see you next time on the What to Watch Guys.